Okay, so we are streaming live now. And welcome everyone. Welcome everyone, and above all, welcome to Paul Jacobs, who kindly has agreed to come here tonight to have a bit of a chat regarding mediumship, the development of mediumship, and all about spirituality, but above all, spiritualism. Good evening, Paul. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Good. That's fine. So I know that we were having a little chat just before coming on live, and I just wanted to say that, there would be so many topics to talk about, but we will just go with the flow. But there is something that came to my attention as I was scrolling up and down the upcoming workshops and at the Arthur Findlay College, and one of them says mediumship and the new generation. We can start from there, and why is the name and the new generation?
Really, the name mediumship new generation is something personal for me. It's not the college's idea.
Okay.
What it is that I was very fortunate as a young man to be encouraged and helped by the Gordon Higginson, which I'm sure most people have heard of, the finest medium of the last century. And he helped me greatly. I wouldn't have probably stayed in this subject or field, and I wouldn't have achieved what I've done with my mediumship, and I would say even the quality of it. And I always said to the spirit world, if I have the opportunity to give back what I received as Gordon gave me, I would. So my main interest has always been training the next generation of mediums, but also the next generation of teachers. So the week Mediumship New Generation, which we had last week. So the teachers on there were the new teachers that are coming through, and I want to be able to guide them and support them. So I had them on that week. And then I would have said 90% of the students that week were new. They'd never been to the college before. Many had never done any mediumship before. And you see, the problem is, is that the teaching of mediumship has changed. So it was 30 odd years ago when Gordon Higginson was here. I actually used to do a week called Back to the Future, okay, because I very much, and somebody called me the other day after watching me work, they said, "Oh, you're a good old-fashioned medium." And I said, "Yes, I am." Because in the teaching of mediumship today, we want to put the cart before the horse. And also what we've got to look at is that often in teaching now, there's many people teaching it who shouldn't be teaching it. Also here, we're not being taught the right things to give us the right foundation to build our mediumship upon. So what we have to realize is, we can't, as teachers or you coming to courses, put mediumship there. It's either there or it's not. So I very much believe everybody is psychic, and there's no limitation on that, except for the limitation of your own minds, okay? And also the right training, and there's no limitation, because the word psychic comes from the Greek word meaning soul. We've all got a soul, so we can all be psychic. So if you come into this because somebody says, "Oh, you should do this because you're psychic," so what? Everybody is, okay? Mediumship is slightly different. Okay, so say it's either there or it's not. So what happens with mediumship is, and we cannot always tell when you first start your journey in looking into mediumship, how far we can take it. And it's just like anything else in life, any talented or gifted person, it's like with a footballer, you'll get somebody who's an amateur footballer, somebody will become semi-professional, somebody's good enough to play in the lower divisions,
Right.
somebody will reach the Premier League status and then the top clubs in the Premier. And it's the same with mediumship, all right? And then I do feel there's just a very small amount that are born particularly for this purpose, such as Gordon Higginson, but those
Mhm.
are only a few. Everybody else, if the mediumship is there, what quality and level we reach with it depends on our development and our training. And I believe the training is not always as good as it should be today. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not the right teacher for everybody because I actually teach with a discipline which a lot of people lack in their development and training. And you get too many teachers who just want to make you feel good and tell you everything you're doing is nice and wonderful when it's not. So, my argument is if mediumship is there, well, God or the spirit world's not going to say, right, I need two new mediums. I'm going to pick Paul, and I like Paul, and so I'm going to give him a very good ability. I need a second one, so I'm going to choose Pernilla. So, but I'm not so keen on Pernilla as I am Paul, so I'm going to give Pernilla a lesser ability. It doesn't make sense, It's how we train it, but it's the foundation that we get wrong. If I asked most students to do what I had to do in the beginning, they probably wouldn't come back after a few weeks. I
Mm.
had to sit in a group once a week, every day on my own, just to be able to go within my own soul, within my own power, and get to learn to know me inside out, to be able to strengthen that power, releasing things that I shouldn't be hanging on to anymore, accepting things about me that I cannot change, looking at the things about me that are not so positive that I could work on and change, but also, just as importantly, embracing that is positive about me, but also the power of embracing of the things that I have done good
Mm.
within my life. So that's strengthening your power, but also being able to lift that power of mind to change onto another level of consciousness and hold it. So for 12 months, I had to do that in that group and every day on my own before I was even allowed to do one practical exercise.
Okay.
Most people would walk away to that. So, what very much Gordon Higginson, who was the master, taught that there has to be this self awareness, first of all. Because if you don't understand and know yourself truthfully, how on earth are you going to understand your client in a psychic reading, let alone understand the soul that's communicating from the spirit's world? Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that self important is important, but also very much a big ingredient is also finding and discovering and touching that God point, that God particle, that's the center of our being, and awakening that power of that God particle and find the reality of God within yourself, not just in something outside of you, but having a relationship with God. And in fact, I say to people, making God your best friend. Not just when you want to sit in circle, not just when you work in your mediumship, but in your everyday life. I share from my soul whatever I'm expressing or doing in my everyday life. It's like now, as I speak to you, I'm allowing my soul to listen. I'm recognizing what my soul feels. And also that's where I'm working from as I'm speaking to you. So it's having that power. It's like having God as your best friend. And, just in my everyday life, I'm sort of sharing with God how I'm feeling, what I'm doing, what I'm experiencing. Not just when I pray because I want something, yeah, and not just when I'm sitting in spiritual classes and circles, but making God part of my life. Because if your mediumship is truly going to reach its full potential, then that psychic faculty, because your mediumship works through your psychic faculty. So the psychic ability and mediumistic ability are two separate things, but they're part of each other. So we have to spiritualize that psychic faculty. Yeah. And so all that what I've just mentioned and spoke about should be the foundation to anybody's development. See, I used to do a talk, and it was called The Development and Unfoldment. Oh, sorry, The Road to Development and Unfoldment of Mediumship. So what we do, we develop the power that unfolds your mediumistic potential. But what we have today, from day one or even before day one, people are deciding, oh, I want to be a demonstrating medium. I want to be a spiritual teacher. I want to be a healer. I want to be a trance medium. It's not for you to choose. You develop the power and allow those gifts to naturally unfold, then train them in whichever one shows and comes to the surface first. That's the correct way of doing it. And, also, I very, very much believe in this is that it's also your motive and your intent, because that's part of spiritualizing. Now, saying that, I'm not against if somebody's become famous, they've had a TV program, written a book or whatever, or they earn a living from it. It's my profession. I earn my living from it, but it's your motive and intent. And many, many people are coming into it with not the right motive and intent. They're looking just for a career change or looking to be maybe something that they've not been before to get attention, want to become psychic superstars. They think maybe it's a quick or an easy way to find fame and fortune. Yeah. Well, if that's in your intent, your mediumship will never develop to the quality and the degree. Yes, I earn my living by it. Yes, I've done TV. Yes, I've written a book. Yes, I've traveled the world, but it's never been my intent. But also, I have to remember what I'm about is service. Yeah. So it's always important I keep that balance right. Like you asking me to do this tonight, yeah, which I'm happy to freely do. Yeah. It's the same with the churches. I'll give my time to the churches freely. A friend of mine, Mavis Patilla, always used to use the words, give unto Caesar's what Caesar's, give unto God what's God's. Yeah. But also, if I look at mediumship today, it's become very weak where, if you listen to a lot of mediumship now, and even the teachers are allowing it, but they also work that way themselves, where we're just throwing out a shopping list of general information to a whole audience. That's poor. That's bad. I could stand there for an hour, make it all up, just give generic stories, and somebody will put their hands up and claim it.
Yes.
I was always taught by Gordon Hinson from day one, who's there? Say who's there. Say who they want to speak to. And then he said, and this was my day one, this was my first day. And then he says, what do they want to say? Yeah. He didn't give me a shopping list or tell me their height, tell me their age, tell me their character, tell me how they passed. What do they want to say? And I said, I don't know. He said, ask. He didn't teach me how to ask. And this is why I teach what I do. We don't speak to the spirit world in words in our head with the conscious mind. We speak through the feelings and the higher mind within the center of our soul. So when Gordon asked me to do this, and I said, I don't know how, and he said, ask, automatically my mind went to the depths of my soul, and I cried out, God, help, give me what this man wants. And I heard the words Father. I didn't know whether it was the spirit world or not. So I said, it's somebody's father. He then said, who does he want to speak to? I said, I don't know. Ask. So I did the same. And as I was doing that, and he says, and then allow the power to move you. So I did. And as I looked at the audience, this one lady just seemed to stand out. She's in her 40s, early 50s. And I says, the lady there, she said, yes, my father's in the spirit world. So Gordon says, what does he want to say? I said, I don't know. Ask. I did the same thing from my soul, and the words came into my mind. I've only just passed, and I've left her 500,000 euros in my will. And she said, yes. My first attempt. But what three? So then, for 5.5 years, that's the way I trained my mediumship. So, and today, a lot of mediums, I always find, if I look at all the students I've got from all over the world, the two weakest points is saying who the communicator is and direction, because they've not been trained from day one with that. And also, some teachers even say it's wrong to do. So I teach both aspects. I have to throw out to an audience sometimes, but there's when I can and when I can't. I have to use my common sense and logic. This is too generic. I need my relationship and direction. Or think, no, this is practical. I'm not going to get every hand going up for this piece of information. I think one of my first contacts I threw out, I'd got a young man who'd been decapitated by helicopter blades. So that was strong enough to throw out.
Yes, that's it. I can understand. Yes.
But if you could, the new one is now, they've got a grandfather figure energy who had trouble breathing, so he must have been a smoker and he liked nature, and they throw it out to a whole audience. Or they've got this lady with grey hair with mobility problems with the apron cooking in the kitchen, and then they throw out that to the whole audience. What are we doing? What are we proving? Nothing. Because if that information is definitely coming from the spirit world, then it wouldn't take the spirit world or make any difference to the spirit world or more difficult to give you something more substantial. Yeah. Again, it's ego, our own minds, of causing a barrier to the spirit world, not surrendering to them, and also not trusting what they bring, limiting them with what we want to receive, playing safe, and being scared of being wrong. And if that's the way you go through your training and development, then your mediumship will never be the quality it should, and you'll never reach its full potential. Yeah, that's what we've got to realise. I'll just say one more thing about this purpose.
Go on.
This purpose and intent. I was driving to a church, and on the way I was saying to the spirit world, the last 5 or 6 services, haven't been what they should have been. They're not good enough. You're going to have to pull your socks up. So, and I had to admit, and then I heard them say, why are you doing this? What is your motive and intent? And I had to be honest with myself and realised I'd lost my true motive and intent. I was going out to demonstrate, to prove how good Paul Jacobs could be. So I recognised that. I went to that church, and that evening, every contact was either a communicator whose funeral had only taken place that week, or they'd only passed that week and the funeral hadn't even taken place. Because I'd gone back to my true motive and true intent of why I was doing it in the first place. Can you see the difference? Yeah.
And the power of intention is one of the strongest energies, which I find working really powerfully with spirits. Now, I know that in our audience tonight, and I want to say hi to a number of people that are following us on Facebook as well. I know that there are quite a few new people as well that they want to find out more about mediumship. Now, one of the first things that you learn when you come into training and developing mediumship is sitting in the power. Do you think that this is the main tool or just one of the tools that you should be using?
Okay, this sitting in the power, it's become very popular. I mean, what
Yes.
I spoke about earlier, but it's not just sitting there with your dream catchers, your crystals, or whatever, and putting on your spiritual overcoat and sitting there and do nothing. So the one I do, which I did for 12 months on my own and in the group, it's about going down and sitting within your own power and doing all those things I've described to strengthen it, then to lift your mind up and out to change that consciousness to blend with the power of the spirit world, not a spirit person. And you'll find a lot of people who are thinking they're doing sitting in the power, they're not doing it properly. They're wanting to experience things.
Yes.
And if you're looking to see something, hear something, feel something, you're using the power, not developing it.
Yes.
Actually, in a way, if you're really sitting in the power, you've got to, in a way, want to become oblivious of anything and just find that oneness with that the divine power of life you're a part of and be one with it and hold it. Yeah. So that's good. But there's got to be, this self-awareness in that first part of it. Yeah. And like I explained earlier. So then from that, then we shouldn't even then be jumping to mediumship straight away. We should be looking at the psychic faculty. So if you look at your psychic faculty, which is the soul, okay, so I look at it like pretend it's a muscle. Yeah. So first of all, the psychic ability is a very important part of our work. Okay, I'll explain that in a moment. All right. So that's one, that's what we should use. And then two, using that psychic faculty and using it in its own way strengthens that muscle, which in turn will help when it comes to moving to the spirit world. I remember saying to Gordon Higginson, I said, when I'm ready to work professionally, I'm only going to see clients who've lost people. And I thought he would be pleased with me. And he looked at me in disgust and he said, and who are you to decide that? And I said, what do you mean? He said, somebody who's grieving for a broken relationship, a loss of a job, a loss of a home, a separation from their family, are entitled to help just as much as somebody who's grieving for the loss of somebody going to the spirit world. And he says that we don't need mediumship to do that. We can do it on the psychic level. Yeah.
Oh.
So you see, and if you look at the psychic and mediumistic, it works exactly the same way. So on the psychic level, we can sense, we can see, and we can hear even. So on the mediumistic, we sense, we see, and we hear. The only difference is on a psychic level, it's my soul blending with the sitter and experiencing their soul and taking the information. And then when it comes mediumistically, it's the same thing, but just another change of consciousness. And then my soul blends with the soul without a physical body and experiences that soul, takes and experiences the information of that one from the spirit world. So if you strengthen your psychic work, it's an important part of your work, but also it will help your mediumship because it strengthens that faculty. And if you can't do it on a psychic level, you definitely won't do it on a mediumistic level because it works in exactly the same way. But the psychic level is easier. And I just point out, if you expect your mediumistic potential to happen strongly and as quickly as the psychic, you'll get disappointed and disillusioned. All right. The psychic level is easier. We can strengthen and it can happen quicker, but the mediumistic is different. And then what we've also got to realize, and this is why the self-development and awareness is important, because I say to my students, we're talking about mediumship of the mind. The base point of communication is the emotion. Okay. So I say to my students, the weakness and all the spirit world have got to use is you, the makeup of you, and that's how you express yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So I say to my students, your weaknesses and strengths in your mediumship will be the weaknesses and strengths in the makeup and expression of you in your normal daily living.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're going to strengthen and develop strongly for that full potential of mediumship, then you need to be able to know which is your strengths in your everyday expression to use in your mediumship. And then we need to look at our weaknesses too. So, say if you've got a mind that's very analytical mind, we don't want you to throw common sense and logic away. But if you're over analytical, so what you'll end up is dissecting and analyzing and destroying before the communications even begun. Yeah. Right. You may be somebody who's got a mind that's like a butterfly that flits here, there, and everywhere. So your mediumship and your communication is going to be flipping and flitting here, there, and everywhere. And on the emotional aspect, because that's the base point, if you've got somebody who's got barriers on your emotions, and because you do not like people to see them, or barriers because of emotional experiences you've had at the past that you've buried away and not dealt with, then you're putting a barrier to the spirit world. And that's why in that sitting in your own power within your own soul, embracing the positive, changing the negativity, releasing negativity, accepting some negatives you can't change, but embracing the positive power of that what is positive and good of you and what you've lived. Yeah. So that's what really sitting in the power is about in its first stage. All right. And these points I've just said and spoke about, if you all can take on board what I've just said, it will give you a stronger foundation for your mediumship to unfold. Yeah. And when I was doing that for 12 months, I'm not saying it was a rigid 12 months, but it was about after 12 months, Gordon said, you're now ready to begin your training. Because I've done the work on my self-awareness. I've found this reality of this power, that's something divine, call it God, what you want. Built a relationship with it. I'd learned to be able to change my mind and lift a hold within that power of the spirit world. And then he said, now it's time for you to train. Yeah. And that's the ingredient most people aren't giving time to. Yeah. I can't force anybody to do that, but that would be my advice. Yeah. And sometimes, in the beginning, we have to maybe experience different people, teachers. But once you feel you've found the right one, stay under that same umbrella. Because what I'm finding with students when they come to me, they're flitted here, there to run into that many different teachers. They're in a mess, and it's like, and they're just confused because what you have to accept that a great percentage of teachers conflict with what they teach.
Okay.
So if you've got me saying, if it's generic, you've got to learn relationship or saying who it is in your direction, and then you got other teachers telling you it's wrong to do that, well, you're going to end in a mess, aren't you?
Yeah.
Which path do I follow? It's like me with my students. I encourage my students not to start off wanting a picture of a person from the spirit world and describing their age, how tall they are, and how heavy they are or how slim they are. Yeah. I said, it's not good. Doesn't mean you can't give description of somebody, but you know, if you throw out these general physical descriptions, somebody can put the hands up. So what I do, and I teach, even for people earlier on, if I do see somebody from the spirit world, I look to see if there's anything unusual. They might only have one eye, two noses, 3 ears, whatever. I'll have a look to see if they're wearing something, holding something. That will tell me their hobbies, their work, their interests, or in a scene. That will tell me those things. Surely that can't be any more difficult. You know, but you know, if you stand there's a lady with a grey hair and she's got a floral dress on, well, what's that doing? Not a lot. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we are having some comments as well.
Yeah.
And I can take a lot of what you're saying, and through my own personal life and evolution, if you like, I've been experiencing exactly that. Sandra Ferreira is saying, very true, Paul Jacobs. Spirits uses everything we have, including our knowledge, developed talents, and evolved emotional self. And not everyone perhaps has had the chance to look within themselves and be truthful towards their own inner self and higher self. But I also know that sitting with spirit, I know that spirit will bring up issues that need to be addressed or looked at.
But it won't bring up anything. You've got to go into your own spirit. If you go into your own spirit and open up to your own power, it will come up naturally. Yeah, the spirit world won't put anything there. You see, sitting in the power is not about communication with the spirit world. And this is where people have got it wrong. It's you communicating with your own spirit, your own power. Yeah. And then the second part is then blending with the spirit power, that divine power of life and creation, and being one with it. It's not about communication in any shape or form. That's where people have got it wrong.
Okay, so when you're talking about your own spirit, are you talking about the stream of consciousness?
So, right, what we've got to look at. So we've got the physical body, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Once behind the physical body, we've got the etheric body. Then behind the etheric body, there's numerous lighter, subtle bodies, until then we come to the soul, yeah? So the physical is the vehicle of the soul. The soul is the vehicle of the emotion, the higher consciousness, or the mind of your spirit, and the divine power of this the spirit. So your spirit has got no shape or form. So okay, it is that divine power, and it's allowing that to come alive with it. But at the center of that, okay, there's that God particle. Yeah. So when we go into our own soul, okay, we're allowing that higher consciousness to awaken. We're allowing a power to rise. We're allowing to the feelings. So then we start experiencing naturally, okay, all these positive and negatives. Yeah. Okay. But not that somebody's telling us or judging us, you've got to look at that because that was negative or that's bad. It's your own awareness, your higher mind recognizing what's positive, what's negative, what was good, what was bad. Yeah. So it's not about communicating with a spirit outside of you. Yeah. It's communicating really with that God part and that divine power of life and creation that's there within you, that emanates from you. Yeah, that make a bit more sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. And on another topic, we were talking about earlier on training the class for a whole year to discover about themselves and connect to the to their higher self. Were there some specific exercises that you would have to discover through attending those classes, or it is something that the students will learn through their own experience, undoubtedly?
That's right. I'll be honest with you. There's no need to go to classes for it. Yeah, okay. Like I said, I just sat in a small group that were more experienced spiritualists with me, just to do what I explained. But then I sat every day on my own, because this self-awareness, this spiritual development of oneself, is a personal thing. Nobody can teach it you, and you can't learn it from a book. And if I go back over some of the over the years with some very, very good mediums I helped and developed and trained. I remember one young man coming to me. He was only 18, never been to anything before, and it quite amazed me. And within 12 months, I was taking him out demonstrating with me. Okay, not because there wasn't other people who got the same potential, but it took them another 3, 4, 5 years. But what he'd done naturally, he'd done that self-awareness naturally for himself before he even came into mediumship or the understanding of mediumship, because he was somebody who was a bit of a loner. He was a bit of a nerd. He was he got his own sort of particular traits of how he liked to look, dress, behave, be, image, and he was bullied at school. Yeah, he was also a clever guy, so that didn't help the bullying either. Yeah, so very much what happened was he naturally, on his own, when he was alone, he went within himself, talking to God about what he was going through. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
and also he would have done a lot of questioning about himself inwardly within his own soul of why people are treating him the way he is, why they treat him like that. Is it my fault? What's wrong with me? What's negative about me? What can you see that? So he'd done all. So that meant when he came to me, he'd done this strengthening and developing of the power. It sat in a way and naturally been able to lift and blend in the power of the spirit world, not communicate. So when he came to me, his mediumship was fully on the top surface. Yeah. It developed that power. Yeah. So all I had to do was teach him how to use it, present it, and deliver it to make it do the job to its full potential. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yes.
That's very very important. I mean, if you look, what might happen is, see, you'll get a lot of mediums say they were aware of the spirit as a child. Well, I would say 90% of children are. It's a natural part of them. Yeah. Okay. So so when you hear people say, "Oh well, I was aware of a child, so I'm gifted and natural," and you think, "Oh well, I can't be because I've never really experienced anything." All right, but what happens is it can be that something traumatic happens in your life, and you've got nowhere to turn but inward, and that can be mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever, and brings it to the surface. Yeah. Or it was like me, it was like I was sort of like, I'd had success, I'd had achievement in everything I did in life. Yeah. Okay. But I didn't feel content. I didn't feel happy. And I said, what's the matter? I've got everything everybody would wish for. So why aren't I happy? And I just felt I can't, there's no purpose to my life. Yeah. I'm successful in what I can do. I'm good at what I do. This is and I've got everything that success can bring. There's got to be something more. So I started questioning this. And in that, I awoke and realized it was nothing physical that was going to send and give me that inner satisfaction. It was something that was beyond the physical. And that's when I went on my search. Yeah. So I didn't go to spiritualism or a spiritualist church because I wanted to be a medium or I wanted a message, even though that was very nice. I'd gone searching to see if God was a reality, and I went searching to whether there was something beyond this physical existence, and in turn finding that, then if there is more after this, then there must be some purpose that I'm here for. Yeah, it can't be just going out there and just having all the material success. And ladies and gentlemen, if there's nothing more behind this physical and our existence and no purpose, then I may as well go out there, take everything I can possibly take from this physical world, be the biggest so-and-so walking on two legs of what I think and care and do for people, if there's nothing afterwards. Yeah. So also my job as a medium, I've changed. I used to think my job was taking away the fear of death and dying. It's not. It's taking away the fear of life and of living. Yeah. Okay. And it's very important. So, it's like giving, like one of my main jobs is giving people this evidence, this contact their loved ones have survived, and giving that comfort, which I enjoy doing and is part of what I am. But if mediumship was only that only, I don't think I'd carry on. And this is where we're failing in mediumship today, because whether it's through that communication and evidence, whether it's through the inspirational word, whether it's through the healing, it's about touching the soul and awakening the spirit within individuals from just to encourage for them then to take that next step to find their own reality of the spirit. That's what it's really about, and that's what a lot of mediumship, is failing, because we're not doing it for the right motive. It's either for fame, fortune, psychic stardom, to feel important about something. It's not. We're here to be of service. We're here to touch people's life. I can remember my first demonstration, and Gordon was with me, and afterwards he sat me down for an hour and told me everything I did wrong. And then he said to me, "But Paul," he says, "always remember," he says, "the whole demonstration was worth it for that one contact. You touched the soul of that person, that will make a difference to her life." So when you go out on your way as a medium, always remember, if you only touch one person and made a difference, it's all been worthwhile. And I've always stuck on that because of our egos. And, you couldn't stand and be a medium if you haven't got some ego. You couldn't stand it in front of all those people. Okay. But, we want the whole demonstration to be wonderful. We want everybody to think we're marvelous. Yeah. Which is nice, but it's not easy. You never know what the quality is going to be from one contact. You honestly, sincerely do your best. And if it's not been maybe quite what you feel it should have been, I always look for that one contact. Have I touched somebody and made a difference to them? And if I have, then it was worthwhile. It doesn't matter so much about all the others in that demonstration. That makes sense? Yeah.
Absolutely. And someone is asking, Cormac is asking, can you send spirit to people?
Okay, it just depends what it means by. In the exact wording, no. You can encourage people. If you're talking about people who are, and I've done it for several people, where I've encouraged them to release and let go. Yeah, okay. And I've even given contacts to recipients in an audience, and their loved one has said at the end, "Thank you for your words and your prayers that helped me let go and go to the spirit world." Yeah, probably like say Daniela, say for some reason I didn't like you and I wish you weren't alive. I couldn't send you to the spirit world. Yeah, yeah, okay, but but we can help people pass. Yeah, it's like sometimes, you know, when people send me ask for healing,
Mm.
I'll actually pay for them to pass, because that's the best thing for them. Yeah, okay, and they need, and it helps them. And also, I can remember one experience, and I was in the I went into the room where a relative of mine was passing, and all the family were in there, hanging on to them, crying, "Don't go, don't leave us." And I said to them all, "Out now, every one of you." And then I sat next to the person, took the hand. I said, "Right, um, your husband's here waiting for you. It's time to let go." And they were unconscious. And all of a sudden they opened their eyes, looked at me, smiled, closed their eyes, took 3 breaths, and they went.
Mm.
Yeah. I had a young man, and a friend of mine, she was a spiritualist, but her husband wasn't. He was only about 40. And he'd got cancer and whatever. And she says, "Paul," she says, "he wants to go, but he just keeps hanging on. He can't seem to go." And I've had everybody. He's got me to call all sorts of ministers out to see him and whatever. Nothing helps. So she says, "Will you come and see him, even though he doesn't believe in what you do?" So I said, "Yes, I will." And I was aware of somebody from the spirit world that belongs to him. I says, "You're scared to let go, aren't you?" And he says, "Yeah." "Even though you want to go?" "Yeah." I said, "You need reassurance that a particular person is going to be waiting for you." And he says, "Yes." And I says, "Well, they're here now." Told him who it was. He passed the next day. You know.
Wow.
So again, it's that fear, you see. Yeah. So, you know, all I did was took his away the fear of dying. Yeah. For him. And he
Mm.
could let go.
It
So
is,
I hope that answers the question okay for the person who asked.
yeah, yes. Okay, good. So regarding the teachers, we have touched a lot of points, and not all teachers are, in your view, obviously, should even be teaching. But the ones that come to you, that they want to improve, they want to, provided they have worked on themselves, for instance, and they want to be able to be the best teachers they can be, what would be the advice you'd give them?
You know, how can I put it? You see, firstly, you know, like I say, you know, every teacher is not the right teacher for you, and I always add, not every student is the right student for me. Yeah,
Right.
okay. You know, when I take my groups and they're going through the mill a little bit because they're not used to my disciplines, yeah. Um, going to the top, and I'll say, "Look, I've got to put you through this." Okay. I said, because whoever comes to me, you know, if we look at it, there's thousands of so-called mediums out there today. Yeah. And I wouldn't give you the time of day for a large percentage. Yeah. So with those who come to me, I'm looking for you to be that something more than the general thousands that are out there. And if you truly are a medium, then there's no reason why you cannot be, if you have the right discipline, the right training, the right development of your power, and the right motive and intent. But you see, but it's not an easy road. You know, there'll be times, you know, I used to do a talk, you know, about the road to development and unfoldment. And I used to say, you know, sometimes you'll come to the traffic lights and they're on red, and you think you've come to a stop. There'll be roadworks in the road, and that takes you on a diversion, and it takes a longer time to get to where you want to get. Sometimes you'll get lost on your journey.
Mm.
Yeah. Sometimes you're going to reverse, something will happen where you've got to reverse, and you'll think you're going backwards with it, and it never stops. You see, I say to some of my students, if you think I'm tough and strong with you, if you're going to do the full journey of the road of mediumship, you're going to come across a lot tougher things than me as your teacher. That's experiences in life affecting you, the way audiences treat you, even like even nastiness you have to put up with people who are involved in what we're doing through jealousy or whatever. So if you're really going to do this, you've got to be strong. Physically, what physically things happen to you, mental, emotionally, and spiritual. Yeah. And I see, Gordon Higginson used to do a talk, many are called, but few are chosen. Okay. Because if you haven't got the strength, you'll fall by the wayside. Yeah. I don't think people really fully understand what it takes to really to be and get to that full potential of what your mediumship should be. And that journey never stops. I'm still having to do self-awareness even now after 40 years. It's a continuous
because
journey.
we are evolving all the time.
That's right. And and I see so many, and the time when the time comes that you think you've arrived, and there's only one way after that, and that's down. Yeah. Okay. So you've always got to be striving to be more. But also, what's important, which I warn students, I've warned some of mine recently, it's good to aspire to perfection, but no medium is perfect. It's impossible. Don't care who they are, how good they are, how long they've been doing it, because there's that many ingredients that makes it work. And it's so fragile, such a fine line, and the slightest thing can snap it.
Yes.
And break it. Yeah. So, so you've got to learn, and understand that you won't always be the quality you want to be. Okay. You've got to learn to be able to become your own teacher. But in that, again, you've got to be able to have self-awareness to do that. And you've got to be look at what you do and doing honestly and truthfully to oneself. So what I do, even today, I don't need anybody to tell me, oh, that was good, Paul, or that wasn't very good, Paul. What I do, I give myself an assessment afterwards. But what I do, the first thing I do is I give myself a tap on the shoulder for I know that went well or was important. Yeah. Then after that, I look at what didn't I do? I should have. Okay. And what did I do? I should not have done. So I'll use it in a constructive way, in a positive way, to help me go forward then when it comes to my next time of working. That makes sense, yeah. But also, I would just like to stress to you, even though you can be with a teacher, you can be with a group of people, it's still very much a personal journey, and also it's a very lonely journey as well.
Absolutely. We have Bill Hughes that says, my first time watching Paul, and as a serving medium, would 100% jump at the opportunity to further develop with him. I always believe we should never leave the classroom, even when serving professionally. Amazing, inspiring insight shared with us all. Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure. And it's a continuous journey. Even Gordon Higginson, in his 70s, he was at work. He did his first demonstration when he was 11 years old. Yeah. And in even his 70s, he said he was still trying to enhance what he could manifest through his mediumship. It never stops, really, really. So thank you. I'm glad you agree on that point. Good.
We have another question by Cormac. He's asking if automatic writing is a form of mediumship.
Okay, so again, you see, I'm somebody, Cormac, who's very much a guy who's got his feet firmly on the ground. Okay, and I can be quite blunt as well. All right, and you see, there's too many people for me at times. They're away with what I call the butterflies, the pretty rainbows, and the bunny rabbits. Yeah. Okay. So again, if you look at automatic writing comes under physical mediumship. Yeah. that is very rare. Okay. So what we can do is inspirational writing. Okay. All right. That's different to automatic. And then there's two types of inspirational writing, Cormac, and they're both just as important. There can be inspiration from our own soul, because I believe there's knowledge in our own soul that our conscious mind's not aware of. Yeah. Okay. Or then we can do inspiration round where we've moved maybe slightly in a change of consciousness, and then the spirit world are influencing what we're writing. So there's inspiration from our own soul, inspiration from discarnate soul. Yeah. Then there's automatic writing, but that comes under physical mediumship. So in physical mediumship, the handwriting should be in the handwriting of the person writing it from the spirit world. Yeah. Okay. And also they can, so in inspirational writing, you won't really, from your own soul, you won't give evidence that the spirit world's there. Yeah. But with the automatic writing, they should be able, because what they do, they can even sort of like just rest the pen in your hand like that. Okay. And it will stay there. Okay. And it will be their own handwriting. Might not be very clear when you first start, because they've got to learn to write through and control your hands, you see. Yeah. Okay. So, but that form of automatic writing, I think is fair. Doesn't mean it's not there with anybody, but it's rarer than I think people make out. Not everybody, a large percentage of the people who do writing, they keep saying it's automatic writing when it's not. And to be honest with you, it doesn't matter whether it's from inspiration from your own soul. It doesn't matter whether it's inspiration from a soul in the spirit world. It doesn't matter if it's automatic writing. If there are words there that will touch somebody's soul and make a difference, does it matter? You see, but again, I'm not saying you, please, I'm not aiming this at you, Gormac, if I don't know how new you are or whatever. It's like when I first came into this, everybody, like, we were spiritual healers, yeah? Now it's gone to, nobody wants to be a spiritual healer, they all want to be, they're a trance healer, yeah? Because it's the in fashion, yeah? And I don't believe them, most of them, okay? And then now trance healing's become popular. You're seeing the rise of people saying the psychic surgeon, because it makes them sound more special, more important. And I was having a go on Facebook, and I got into a big exchange with hundreds of people. And this lady said to me, "Well, my husband had psychic surgery, and the tumour shrunk." So I said, right. I said, well, I would say he had excellent healing then, spiritual healing. No, no, it was psychic surgery. I said, no, the spiritual healing shrunk the tumour. Surely, if it was psychic surgery, the tumour would have been removed. That's my logic, anyway. But some reason, I mean, it was like another lady, a student. He was at the college, and it was the public services, and his mum came, and he introduced me to his mum and said, "Oh, my mum went to a physical seance last night." I said, "Oh, great." I says, "Did you enjoy?" She says, "Yes, we had materialization." So I said, "Well, what did you see?" And she says, "Nothing." I said, "Well, how can it be materialization if you read the definition of materialization?" She says, "Yeah, but I felt them touch me." I said, I can feel somebody from the spirit world touch me through my clairsentience. And I don't know, for some reason, not everybody, but there's a percentage. I don't know what it is. It's just, there's that desire that they're just, I can remember when I first came in, I was so excited, I was like a kid with a new toy at Christmas with it all, and I was looking for something and trying to find some spirit behind this or whatever. I've learned now to put everything to the spirit world last, trying to find some other explanation. but I don't know. There's too many. You know, we've got to use our logic and common sense more. I even say to some of my students, I think Penella might have even heard me say it, have you all left your brains at home today? They don't use the common sense and logic, you know? Yeah. You know, it's I don't know. I don't know. It's there's far too much. Don't get me wrong. I'm coming across wonderful people. There's good people out there, so I don't want to sound totally negative, okay? But I do believe that they're not getting the right foundation in the teaching of it, in the message behind mediumship, okay, which is bringing that philosophical point and that spiritualization part to themselves and to other people, and then also then not the right discipline training. You know, I mean, like in my training, I mean, Gordon Higginson, you know, a couple of things he said to me once. I'd done this contact and in front of 80 other students. And he waited till I got back to my chair on the back row, and he says, Paul, and I knew I hadn't done very well. And he says, in front of everybody, do you think you're going backwards rather than forwards? I didn't crumble or cry. Lots of students today would go and put a complaint about me if I said that to them in the class. Yeah. On another occasion, I think it was the last time as a student, I did this contact. It went well, and it turned out it was for Gordon. And then he said to me, I sat down and he said, have you finished? And I said, yes. Oh, so you don't want to be a good medium? I thought, what do you mean? I thought I'd been good. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, instead of telling me the lady played the piano, tell me what she played on the piano. Instead of just telling me there's a photograph frame on top of the piano, tell me what's in the photograph frame. So I got back up, I could see the sheet music. I told him the type of music. He said, yes. Then I got my own back. I said, this lady was a medium also. And he says, yes. And he says, how do you know that? And I said, because in the photograph frame on the piano isn't a photograph, it's a spirit art drawing of a guide who's a native Indian. And he said, that's correct. He said, hey, that's the difference between an average medium and a good medium. He said, so if that other information is there, the extra information is there, but we're too scared. Our ego, they're getting it wrong, looking silly in front of somebody. Yeah. I think somebody just asked a question. I saw it pop up.
Yes. And are you okay for another question? We are
Yeah.
just coming towards the end.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
believe everyone has the potential to connect with the spiritual realm, or is it a unique gift?
Yeah.
Always from Cormac.
I did part answer this earlier on. Okay. So everybody can be psychic. Okay. Because we've all got a soul. Yeah. All right. I believe that we can all, because we're spiritual beings, we can all experience and have some sort of spiritual awareness. Yeah. But we may not be able to develop to a degree where we can use it constantly or turn on the tap constantly. So it'd be wrong to say nobody can, not everybody can have spiritual experiences. That's not true. We can. So, like I said earlier, then when you go into development, it depends on your makeup of a person, okay, type of mind, your emotional state, and then the type of training that we can maybe get to you. It may be that we can never get you to the stage where you can do it working as a regular medium. It might be occasionally just amongst friends, as you know, just as a get together and interest. Okay. And then, like we said earlier, some might, you know, play amateur football, some might become semi-professional, some might become. So we can't say for definite, yeah. But I do believe everybody can have some sort of experience to one degree or another of the spiritual world. But how far they can take that, we can never say until they do the development. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paul. And thank you. Now this live is coming towards the end. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone for having taken part, but above all, Paul, for having given a wonderful talk of an hour, answering questions. And I hope this has helped many. and will help many that will be catching up on this recording on YouTube as well. And Paul, thank you ever so much, because that was truly lovely. And personally, I had the confirmation of so much that I not only have learned through my own SNU teachers, which have been brilliant, but also working with my own guides, and a lot of what you said is just a confirmation of what I've been learning on my journey. So thank you very much, and I will see everyone next Wednesday at the same time with two mediums, Debbie Romero from the US and Sue Wayton from Scotland. Thank you, Paul, very much again. I appreciate your time.
Okay, take care, everyone. All the best.
Thank
Nice to
you.
meet you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.